Most men make this critical mistake when getting to know a woman. They start asking about her exes, her childhood, her last heartbreak. It feels like connection. It sounds honest, but it's not what you think. The moment you ask those questions, she begins to edit. She puts a filter over the truth, not out of deception, but out of instinct. Because people don't just share to connect. They protect. What you hear isn't her truth. It's the version of her past that feels safest to tell. But what if you didn't need to ask? What if her past wasn't in the stories she tells, but in the behaviors she doesn't even notice? Here's the truth no one tells you. People don't describe their past. They embody it. It shows in their habits, in their silence, in how they react when they feel seen or exposed. You don't need to interrogate a woman to understand her. You just need to watch. Because when you know what to look for, you'll see everything. Whether she's still carrying ghosts, still healing, or still stuck in a story that ended years ago. In this video, I'll break down exactly how to read those signs, decode their meaning, and most importantly, protect yourself from becoming another chapter in someone else's unresolved past. 1. Her relationship with attention. The social clues. If you want to understand her past, look at how she handles attention, especially from men. Not just when you compliment her. Watch how she walks into a room, how she posts online, how she talks about being noticed. Does she keep it casual and grounded, or does she light up like someone starving finally getting fed? The frequency with which she brings up male attention without being asked isn't about ego, it's a signal. A woman who was once invisible, ignored in love, dismissed in childhood, often starts to measure her worth by how many men look her way. This isn't about vanity. This is about validation. There's a big difference between a woman who enjoys being admired and one who depends on it to feel alive. One is harmless, the other is dangerous. Because the moment your attention fades, even briefly, she might search for it elsewhere. Not to hurt you, but because she's hooked on the feeling. This isn't disloyalty, it's an emotional dependency. Don't focus on the number of selfies or compliments she gets. Focus on why she needs them. Ask yourself this: is she hungry for admiration or starved for connection? That answer tells you everything about what she's really chasing and what pain she's still running from. 2. How she speaks about other women. Want to know where a woman has been emotionally? Listen to how she talks about other women. When she mentions a friend, a co-worker, or even a stranger, what tone does she use? Supportive, confident, gracious, or is it bitter, competitive, laced with quiet resentment? If every woman she talks about is fake, messy, attention-seeking, or probably cheating, that's not coincidence. That's a projection. It's not about them, it's about her. Women often express emotional wounds through judgment. A woman who constantly mocks flirtatious women may have been cheated on. One who belittles other women's success might feel deeply behind in her own life. And if she proudly says, "I don't get along with other women," that's not confidence. That's pain, dressed as independence. She may have been betrayed, left out, hurt by people she trusted. And now she keeps her armor on by staying above everyone else. But here's the truth. A woman who's healed doesn't need to compete. She's not threatened by others because she's made peace with herself. So when you hear her speak about other women, don't just listen to the gossip. Listen to the wounds underneath, the real story of her past. It leaks out through her judgments. 3. Her conflict style, the hidden pattern. You don't really get to know someone when things are calm. You see their truth when things go wrong. Conflict doesn't create character. It reveals it. Watch what she does when plans fall apart, when you miss a call, when she feels ignored or misunderstood. Does she go silent? Does she explode? Does she twist the situation to make you feel like the villain? Or does she breathe, speak, clarify, and move forward? These aren't mood swings. These are emotional echoes. The way she responds to tension is shaped by the way she learned to survive. A woman who was emotionally abandoned might panic at distance. One who was betrayed might assume the worst about your every move. She's not reacting to you. She's reacting to her history. This is where most men get trapped. They take it personally. They try to fix her, or they ignore the signs until the damage hits. But your job isn't to repair old wounds. It's to recognize them. And then ask, do you want to be part of her healing journey? Or are you stepping into a storm you never started? Because love should feel like peace, not war. And if every disagreement becomes a battlefield, you're not just dating her, you're wrestling her past too. 4. Her relationship. Timeline, without asking a thing. You don't need to ask, when was your last relationship, to understand her romantic past. In fact, asking directly will likely trigger the version of the story she's polished and rehearsed, the one that hides more than it reveals. The truth? You can learn more by simply listening, not to what she says on the surface, but to how she says it, the way she references past experiences, the people she names, the ones she doesn't. If she says something like, "That old cafe? I used to go there all the time. We loved it," stop right there. That "we" isn't just filler. It's a fragment of a deeper connection, a relationship she hasn't brought into the light yet. And notice the way time slips into her stories. A simple, "That was a couple years ago," is her timeline speaking. But if she skips timelines altogether, glosses over key life changes, or leaves emotional turning points unnamed, that silence is saying something too. Listen for phrases like, "after everything fell apart," or "I had to rebuild." Those aren't just about breakups. That's the language of survival and self-repair. Instead of asking for details, observe the context. People are more honest when they're not on defense. She'll share her past. You just have to listen between the lines. The kind of man who sees what's unsaid will always understand more than the one who simply asks. 5. How she talks about men as a whole. Want to know how deep her scars go? Don't just listen to how she talks about you. Listen to how she talks about men in general, her exes, her male co-workers, the guy in the movie, the stranger at the bar. Does she sound neutral, curious, warm? Or is there a sting in her tone, even when she's joking? When she says, "Men are all the same," is it playful or a pattern? Because that bitterness, that edge, often carries a story of betrayal, disappointment, or neglect. No woman develops a sharp tongue toward men without reason. She didn't read it in a book, she lived it. And while she may laugh, flirt, and enjoy your company now, those beliefs don't vanish just because you're kind to her. If her foundation is built on the idea that men lie, leave, or let her down, those beliefs will eventually show up in how she relates to you, especially when the connection deepens. You might notice suspicion when you go quiet, distance when you're actually trying to get closer. It's not moodiness, it's memory. Seeing this clearly doesn't mean judging her. It means knowing what you're stepping into. Is she ready to trust again? Or are you about to carry the emotional weight of every man who came before you? Because if she's still holding that weight, she may be expecting you to hold it next. 6. The way she speaks about her family. If you really want insight into how a woman forms emotional bonds, look no further than how she describes her family, especially her father. You don't need dramatic confessions. Just watch how her tone shifts when she mentions them. Does she light up or dim down? Does she brush it off with a whatever or speak with quiet pain masked as indifference? When she says, "Yeah, my dad was around, I guess," and ends with a shrug, that shrug is doing heavy emotional lifting. The father-daughter dynamic often creates the emotional blueprint she carries into adulthood. If she had to chase his approval, she may try to earn your love. If love was unpredictable at home, warm one day, cold the next, she may expect inconsistency from you, even if you've done nothing to cause it. But if she had stability, support, and consistent love, you'll often see it in her emotional calm, her communication, and her sense of trust. Her upbringing runs like background software. It doesn't announce itself, but it guides her every emotional reaction. Pay attention to how she talks about family holidays, childhood traditions, her relationship with her mother. Does she avoid, dismiss, or does she light up with nostalgia? You'll learn more about her love language from those subtle cues than any romantic questionnaire could ever reveal, because how she learned to love starts at home. 7. What moves her and what doesn't? There's something incredibly revealing about what touches a woman emotionally and what doesn't. Not every emotional truth comes with tears. Sometimes the biggest clues are the moments she goes quiet, like when a scene about abandonment in a movie suddenly shuts her down, or when she skips a song every time because it reminds her of a betrayal she won't speak about. Sometimes she overreacts to things that seem small, being excluded from a group or someone raising their voice, and that intensity isn't random. It's residue. It's her saying, "This already hurt once." On the flip side, if she seems cold to your vulnerability or shrugs off pain like it's no big deal, that too is a flag. Detachment isn't always maturity. Sometimes it's armor built in childhood and never taken off. You won't learn these truths by asking, what makes you emotional? You'll learn by paying attention to the moments that break through her mask, or when the mask becomes immovable. These reactions are emotional footprints, walking you back to a version of her you haven't met yet. And once you start seeing those traces, you'll understand the difference between a woman who's done the work and one still hiding from it. 8. Watch. Don't press the men who understand women best. They don't interrogate. They observe. They don't ask 20 questions. They notice 20 behaviors. Because the truth rarely comes out when someone feels pressured to explain themselves. But in relaxed conversation, in passing comments, in emotional responses, they reveal more than they realize. Anyone can ask, why did your last relationship end? But the man who watches sees the answer when she freezes after a cancelled plan, or smiles too hard when someone finally sees something in her beyond appearance. These aren't accidents, they're signals. Being observant isn't being controlling, it's being emotionally fluent. It means you're not just hearing her words, you're reading her history. Because when you only trust words, you're buying the edited version of her past. But when you observe, you see the raw, unfiltered truth. You see the woman behind the story, the one who's still healing, or the one who's ready to love with depth. And that kind of insight, that's power. So don't push. Let the truth come out on its own. It always does. The only real question is, are you paying enough attention to catch it? If you're still watching, you've already separated yourself from most men, because you're not just listening, you're learning. You're starting to see that the real story isn't always spoken. And once you start noticing the patterns, the subtle signs, and the hidden clues, you stop falling for highlights and start building real connections. You save time, you avoid the wrong situations, and you move through dating with clarity, not confusion. If this video hit home or gave you a new perspective, leave a comment. Tell me what moment stood out. Was it a word? A silence? A reaction? I read every single one. And if you're the kind of man who wants to master emotional intelligence, real connection, and the deeper truths women carry, hit subscribe right now. Because in the next video, I'm revealing 5 types of emotional baggage you can spot within 10 minutes, and how to tell if she's healed or hiding. Until then, keep your eyes open, keep your standards high, and never trade your peace for someone else's chaos. I'll see you soon.